Today's lesson is Ivan the Fool. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And I'm Helen.
And today we're going to continue summarizing our featured story, Ivan the Fool. Ivan the Fool is a common character in Russian folklore, but this story was specifically written about Ivan the Fool, and it was written again by Leo Tolstoy way back in 1886. This is an old story, but it's a good story. Tolstoy is regarded by many people as the greatest writer to have ever lived. And so far, what has happened in our story, Helen?
Well, so far, we've met three brothers, Simeon, Taras, and Ivan, and these three brothers have a very good relationship. And then the devil sent three imps to cause trouble to these three brothers. But instead of causing trouble to Ivan, Ivan actually benefited from discovering the imp because now he has hold of some roots that are able to cure diseases. So Ivan took some of these roots, but he has one remaining, and we're going to find out what he's going to do with this last root.
Okay, yeah, what is he going to do with that last root? We'll find out today. Let's listen to the first part of our lesson, and we'll come back to discuss it.
Ivan still had one root remaining, and when he heard the Tsar's daughter was dying, he went to bring it to her. However, he met a sick beggar woman along the way, gave the root to her instead, and then continued on to the palace. Though Ivan arrived empty-handed, the Tsar's daughter was instantly healed when she met him, and he received her hand in marriage and a kingdom as a reward.
大家好。第一部分我们看到单字 beggar 这个字是名词，指乞丐。举例来说 There are a lot of beggars living in this part of town. 城里这个地区住了很多乞丐。或是 The police officer gave the beggar a sandwich and coffee. 警察给了那位乞丐一个三明治和一杯咖啡。另外，补充这个单字的动词 beg, B-E-G, beg, 表示恳求、祈求。像是 Joe begged his mom to let him go to the party. Joe 恳求他妈妈让他去参加派对。也可以说 Even if the dog begs you, do not give it food from the table. 即使狗狗向你祈求，也不要把桌上的食物给它。接着我们看到片语 somebody's hand in marriage 表示女方的允婚。例如 Thomas got down on one knee and asked for Mary's hand in marriage. Thomas 单膝下跪向 Mary 求婚。或是 Jimmy asked Debbie's elder sister how to propose to ask for Debbie's hand in marriage last night. Jimmy 昨晚向 Debbie 的姐姐请教如何跟 Debbie 求婚。
So Ivan still had one root remaining, and when he heard the Tsar's daughter was dying, he went to bring it to her. So Ivan wanted to know what he was going to do with this one remaining root. And when he heard that the Tsar's daughter was dying, now the Tsar is the Russian equivalent of king or emperor. So the Tsar is the most powerful person in Russia. And when he discovered that the Tsar's daughter was dying because she was sick, he decided, I'm going to take this root to her so that she can use it and get better after taking the root.
So maybe he thought that the Tsar and his daughter were important people in society, so he thought he was going to make a contribution to society by helping the Tsar's daughter out by offering that one root. And yes, the Tsar's daughter was dying. He went to bring it to her. However, he met a sick beggar woman along the way, gave the root to her instead, and then continued on to the palace. So as he was walking to the palace to talk to the Tsar, along the way or on his way to the palace, he came across a sick beggar woman. So it's a woman who is sick, and she's also a beggar, which means she doesn't have any money. She's probably homeless, and she's sitting on the street corner with her hand out, hoping people can give her some money.
Right. So we find that Ivan perhaps doesn't really make a difference between social classes. To him, a poor beggar woman is just as important as the daughter of a czar. So he decides to give the root that he had to the beggar woman. So he, along the way, meets his beggar woman. He gives the root to her instead, and then continued on to the palace. So he decides to go to the palace anyway, but now he's going to the palace without anything in his hands. He's going to go there empty-handed.
I wonder why he decided to continue, especially if he's just a foolish farmer's son and he expects to be admitted to the palace there, but he still continued on to the palace. Though Ivan arrived empty-handed, the Tsar's daughter was instantly healed when she met him, and he received her hand in marriage and a kingdom as a reward. So if you go someplace empty-handed, that means you don't have anything at all. Maybe you might arrive at someone's party empty-handed. Sometimes if you're invited to someone's party, it's customary to bring maybe a bottle of wine or some kind of food or something. But if you arrive empty-handed, well, the host might be okay with that. It kind of depends on the party. But in this particular case, he didn't have any of those roots left. He arrived empty-handed. He just went there hoping that he would just charm them with his wonderful personality.
Yes, and even though he went there without the root, as soon as the Tsar's daughter saw him, she was healed of her illness. So just the presence of Ivan made the Tsar's daughter get better. And as a result, he received her hand in marriage. In other words, he was able to marry the Tsar's daughter. So when a man receives a woman's hand in marriage, it just means that he is able to marry her. He has asked her to marry him. She said yes, and now he is able to marry her.
Now, this sort of implies that the Tsar offered his daughter to Ivan for marriage, and maybe the Tsar's daughter may have been kind of upset about that. Dad, you can't just marry me off to somebody. It has to be my decision. But still, she probably thought that Ivan was very charming, and it was a pretty good deal anyway to marry this guy. So to make a long story short, she did marry him, and he was richly rewarded here. He received her hand in marriage. I guess he kind of thought she was kind of cute too there. So he also received a kingdom as a reward. Remember, a reward is something you receive for doing something great, like finding somebody's lost cat.
Right. If you lose your cat or your dog, you might post a note on a tree or on some kind of post outside in the streets and offer a reward of 5,000 NT, 2,000 NT, however much you think your dog or cat is worth. And if somebody wants to get that reward, they might go out and try to look for your pet.
Indeed. So in this story, you might think that this is the end of the story, and we can conclude by saying, and they lived happily ever after. But no, we've got the devil still lurking out there somewhere, and the devil's not going to be very happy about this arrangement. Let's find out what the devil does as a result in the next part of our lesson.
The devil, furious at his failure to ruin Ivan, went to the kingdom to try to corrupt the citizens there. When he arrived, he discovered that the kingdom's subjects lived in harmony, producing only what they needed and bartering instead of using currency. In fact, the peasants had so little use for the devil's gold that they wouldn't even sell him any food. Eventually, the devil became so frustrated and hungry that he decided he had had enough. He slipped into a hole in the ground and disappeared forever.
第二部分，我们看到动词 corrupt 表示使腐化堕落，使道德败坏，像是 The woman on the farm believed that living in the city corrupted her son. 农场那位女士认为住在城市使她儿子堕落。或是 Sharon thinks that violent video games are corrupting the youth. Sharon 认为暴力的电玩游戏正在使青少年堕落。另外，把这个字的字尾加上 ion， 就变成了名词 corruption， 指腐败或者贪污的意思。例如 Few business people want to start companies in that country because of the government officials' corruption. 由于该国政府官员贪污，很少有商人想在那个国家创办公司。再来，我们看到动词 barter， 指交换货物。例如 She bartered her sticker collection for Hannah's cookies. 她用她收集的系列贴纸换取 Hannah 的饼干。接着我们看到单字 currency， 这个字是名词，意思是货币、通用或者是流通。像是 If you need that particular foreign currency, you'll have to go to a different branch. 如果你需要那种特定的外币，你需要去不同的分行。最后我们看到名词 peasant， 指农夫或者是农民。例如 The town was filled with peasants who had to work in the fields all day. 这个镇上农夫居多，他们必须整天在田里工作。或是 During the Industrial Revolution, many peasants moved to the cities to work in factories. 工业革命期间，许多农民移居城市，到工厂讨生活。
So the devil is always trying to cause trouble and bring harm to people. In this case, the devil, furious at his failure to ruin Ivan, went to the kingdom to try to corrupt the citizens there. So the devil became furious. To be furious means to be very, very angry. And he became furious or very angry at his failure to ruin Ivan. When you ruin somebody, you destroy or damage that person. And the devil failed to destroy or damage Ivan because in the end, he became healthy. He was able to marry a Tsar's daughter, and he also got a reward of an entire kingdom. And that's why the devil was furious.
Indeed. I'm kind of surprised Ivan accepted that. I thought he wanted a simple life. If you are now in charge of a big kingdom, my goodness, you have all sorts of responsibilities there. But in any case here, the devil was furious at his failure to ruin Ivan. If you're furious, you're very, very angry. And if you ruin something, you destroy it, you wreck it, you make it so it's no longer in its original condition. And so he wanted to ruin Ivan. He wanted to cause trouble for Ivan. So he tried to corrupt the citizens in that kingdom. Corrupt here is a verb. It just means to cause trouble or to make those people bad or evil. If you are corrupt and you're a government official, for example, that means you probably take bribes from people and you don't serve the people. You're only interested in getting rich yourself. You are corrupt.
Right, and as an example of the usage of ruin, I could say that the rain ruined our picnic because we were sitting outside, the sun was shining, and we were having a great time. Suddenly, it began to rain, so the rain ruined our fun picnic.
Oh, no, that's terrible. You would be furious if the rain ruined your picnic. And the devil, of course, was furious because he was unable to ruin Ivan, so he wanted to corrupt the people in that kingdom. He wanted to corrupt the citizens there, make them bad people. And when the devil arrived, he discovered that the kingdom's subjects lived in harmony, producing only what they needed and bartering instead of using currency. So if you're a subject, that means you are underneath a king or a queen or an emperor. We use that term when we talk about empires or kingdoms. The subjects are the people under the king. All the subjects or the citizens of this kingdom lived in harmony. They got along quite well with each other. And maybe they even sang together in harmony. Of course, harmony does refer to when two or more notes sound good together in a chord or something like that. But in this particular case, they lived peacefully. They did not fight. They got along well with each other. And they only produced the food that they needed. They didn't produce a lot extra so they could trade it on the open market and make a lot of money and get greedy that way. They were just satisfied and content to be simple farmers.
Right. They produced only what they needed, and they bartered instead of using currency. So when you barter, you exchange goods or services for other goods or services instead of using money. So if I'm a farmer, I could offer a bushel of wheat to a carpenter if I needed the carpenter's service to build me a table. So that's an exchange of services and goods under the barter system. And in this society, under the Tsar, people bartered with each other instead of using currency. Currency is another word for money. So any type of money, bills, coins of a particular country is considered a currency. And this is how the people remained in harmony with each other because they weren't greedy. They never had to deal with money.
Indeed, and of course the currency used here in Taiwan is the new Taiwan dollar. But in any case here, we're talking about currency not being used in this kingdom. And in fact, the peasants had so little use for the devil's gold that they wouldn't even sell him any food. So these people are happy bartering, and they're happy trading directly their produce and their services and things like that. So they had no use for the devil's gold. If you have no use for something, you don't need it. So they had so little use for the devil's gold that they wouldn't even sell him any food. So in this, we do have the pattern, so something, that something happened as a result. So they had so little use for the gold of the devil that, as a result, they wouldn't even sell him any food. We don't need your gold, so we're not going to sell you that food, but maybe if you do something for us, then we'll give you some food and a hot meal.
That's right. So the devil was unable to corrupt these peasants. Now, peasants refer to people who are very poor and who usually do farm work or live on farms, live in rural areas. And these people were so poor, still they refused the gold offered by the devil because they simply had no use for it. Now, eventually, the devil became so frustrated and hungry that he decided he had had enough. So the devil wasn't able to get anywhere in this society, so he became frustrated. When you're frustrated, you're annoyed. You have a feeling of being really annoyed and impatient because you're unable to get what you want or to achieve what you want.
Right. Frustrated is the American pronunciation. I believe in England they will accent the second syllable, frustrated. I feel so frustrated at not being able to find a job. But here the devil was so frustrated and he was so hungry that he decided that he had had enough. Be careful here. We've got two hads here. This is correct because we are using the past perfect tense here. He had had enough. In the present tense, you could say, I've had enough. But if you're going into the past perfect, you would say, I had had enough, because we're talking about two actions in the past compared to each other. So as a result of that, he had had enough. He just couldn't take it anymore. He slipped into a hole in the ground and disappeared forever. So if you slip into a place, you just kind of secretly go into that place. He just disappeared into a hole in the ground and he was gone forever and he never bothered those people again.
Right. So the devil basically said, oh, forget it. I'm not going to stay around here anymore. This is useless. So he just goes into a hole in the ground, disappears, and forgets about Ivan and his brothers and this kingdom because he has absolutely no influence on these people.
Indeed. So that's our story so far. Let's wrap things up now. In the third part, we'll listen first.
Now, having defeated the devil, Ivan was free to continue doing what he liked most, caring for those he loved and living a simple life.
So in conclusion, now having defeated the devil, Ivan was free to continue doing what he liked most, caring for those he loved and living a simple life. So here we say that Ivan defeated the devil. To defeat means to win against somebody in a fight or a game. And indeed, the devil was trying to corrupt Ivan. He wasn't able to do it. And that means Ivan won. He defeated the devil.
Right. So you can beat the devil, you can defeat the devil. And of course, when you engage in a sports contest or a game with somebody and you get more points than they do, then you defeated that other team. And here Ivan defeated the devil, which is no easy task. And because of that, the devil was not going to bother him anymore. So he was free to continue working as a farmer, to do simple things and live a simple life. And he could do what he liked most. He could care for those he loved and live a simple life. He was not going to run off to the big city and seek his fortune there like his brothers did. And maybe his brothers actually learned their lesson too, and they're living a simple life as well. And I think at this point, Helen, we can say, and they lived happily ever after. Well, now it's time to listen to our Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分的第一句写道，魔鬼对自己无法毁掉 Ivan 感到震怒，他便前往王国，设法让那边的子民堕落。好，文中它是用动词 corrupt 来表达使腐化堕落，使道德败坏。那我们来学它的字首字根。好，看到 rupt 这个字根呢，它就表示破裂、断裂或是打破。那有这个字根的字呢，大多带有那种突然被介入啊，或者是打破原本的规律的那种含义。那么在 corrupt 这个字当中，它的字首 cor 是来自 com， 只是因为这个 com 它碰到字母 r 而被同化成 cor。那这个字首呢，它具有强调作用，而字根 rupt 表示破裂。好，那你可以想咯，当所有的事物全都崩坏分离，也许可以联想到这个 corrupt 它有败坏腐化的意思。它当形容词可以去描述是贪污的、腐败的、道德败坏的，那么当动词就可以表达使堕落、腐化、腐败。好，我们顺便补充几个有相同字根的单字。第一个补充的是 erupt E-R-U-P-T， 那它的字首 E 表示向外， R-U-P-T 表示破裂。那么当爆炸的时候会有东西破裂，有很多碎屑向外喷发，所以应该很容易联想到 erupt 它有喷发、爆发的意思。那第二个补充的是 abrupt A-B-R-U-P-T， 好，它的字首 A-B 有分离的意思， R-U-P-T 是表达打断。那当有东西突然断裂分离，是不是会让人有很突然很意外的感受呢？也许可以用这样的方式去联想到 abrupt， 它表示意外的、突然的、唐突的。那第三个补充的是 interrupt， 它的字首 I-N-T-E-R 表示在点点点之间。那么 rupt 表示打断，当我们从中介入某件事情或是某个活动，把它的连贯性打断了，那这时候 interrupt 它就是表达打岔或者是中断的意思咯。好，那么故事接着写到，当魔鬼抵达王国时，他发现那里的国民生活和睦，只生产他们需要的东西，并且以物易物，而非使用货币。文中它是用到 instead of 去表达代替什么什么，而不是什么什么。那这是个片语介系词，后面是要接名词或动名词。那这个名词或动名词呢，就是被取代的东西咯，或者是被取代的人。举例来说 I had tea instead of coffee， 我是喝茶而不是喝咖啡。好，那也补充一下，如果单单只有 instead 没有 of， instead 它表示作为代替，反而或是却怎么样，常常用来表达某件事没做，而是做了另一件事，或者是没有选择某事物，反而选择了另一个事物。那么 instead 它是副词，你可以把它摆在句首或是句尾。那摆在句首的话，记得用逗号把它跟句子隔开。举例来说 They didn't go to the library. Instead, 逗号 They went to Sean's place. 他们没有去图书馆，而是去了 Sean 的家。好，那么以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Beggar. Raymond gave some money to a beggar on the way to work. Reward. Brooke has offered a reward to anyone who finds her missing cat. Furious. Darlene was furious to discover that her daughter had lied to her. Ruin. The politician was ruined by the scandal. Harmony. People in that tribe live in harmony with each other. Frustrated. Liam became frustrated when he heard his flight had been delayed again. Defeat. The soldiers defeated their enemies and then returned home.
Discussion starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter for today. What do Ivan's actions say about his character? And how does Ivan's character relate to the moral of the story?
I think the story teaches us that it's bad to be greedy or to think too much about money, since Ivan didn't really care about wealth or his estate. But in the end, he still gained a lot of money because he was given the entire kingdom as a reward for his good deed.
Yeah, in the story, Ivan, of course, is the fool, but we have to sort of ask this question: who is the fool and who isn't the fool? Are you the fool if you run off to the city and try to make a ton of money? Or are you actually the wise man who looks like a fool and is actually happy and content with what you're doing instead of being miserable all the time? Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoyed reading along with us. I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.